trying to get everything looking right. Okay, this is the reason why we need to have somebody help us with things like preparations for our video stuff.
You want to use the wheelies?
I'm done.
It's
fine.
You're ready.
We're ready. So, well, I have a special guest for us today, and also a dear friend who is joining me agreed to join me today, and I'm very, very happy. Let me see, this is where she will sit. Okay, Bo LEBO, and she's an amazingly brilliant educator and knows all kinds of advanced methods of teaching that she's developed on her own and also studied and has a master's degree and everything. So I'm very impressed by Bo LEBO, who is from New Education Options. And New Education Options is a nonprofit that she started in 1999, I believe. And it's a nonprofit that helps develop stuff for kids and helps children's education to bring the next generation into the highest consciousness that we can and be able to share everything we can with them. Then she's just a wonderful resource for the world. So I'd like to let you know a little bit more about all the things we're doing. Bo is going to join us in just a second, but I wanted to let you know that I have a nonprofit that I started in 2007 called Edu Designs. And Edu Designs creates media for children's character development and education. And so after retiring from the animation world, I started the nonprofit so that I could go into schools and show the kids art, because they were taking art out of the schools. And that was one of the disappointments that we had way back then, when my son came home from school and he said, Mom, the reason I went to school wasn't there today. And I said, what? And he said, they took art away. And I thought, oh, that's terrible. Why would you do that? When art is one of the highlights of teaching kids how to think independently and analyze things. So anyway, so I, with some educators' help, I developed this book that has everything that I learned in it from 30 years worth of study, and I put it in there, easy to read. As they say, put the cookies on the lower shelf for the little kids to be able to get them. So, but even 80-year-old people have read this book and said, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. So whether you're a novice or an expert artist, you'll get something out of this book. So this is the book that we go to schools and I give to the teachers, and also we sell online and stuff like that. So it's the newest edition, just came out. So the wonderful thing is that Bo has some fantastic things that she has discovered about educating that we can work together about bringing this information into the school and more, because she's developed other ideas that also will be incorporating into working together with each other to help kids. So without further ado, let me introduce Bo LEBO from New Education Options.
Honey, okay.
Let's see if I can get this camera to see both of us at
Okay,
once.
we're working on it.
We're working on it.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
This is Bo LEBO, and here we are together.
I have my silly hair.
Oh, don't worry. Hair doesn't matter. Look at mine.
I know. This is my lopsy-popsy hair. Okay, so hi, Reddy.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, and how cool to meet you online. What a great thing.
Yeah, this is great.
So you were talking about the new book, or the revised version of the book.
Right.
Because you didn't say that the book now is split, and there's actually 4 versions.
I forgot to mention that.
Yes.
Some people can't handle the whole matzo ball at once.
Right. So I want to say it's okay to not handle all the matzo ball at once. You have to have something to relate it to.
That's
and
right.
Most of us don't draw, or even anymore draw. So they've taken cursive writing out of the school. So one of the best things you can do for a child that signals in signs rather than writes, or can speak is to wave back and have them wave at you. So if I was getting in a relationship or rapport with a child, you know, I might notice that they don't want to be touched.
Oh.
So I might hover and then back away and then hover. And then I actually might do that with drawing a line and letting them draw a line back. But the whole book may be too much for you. So we happen to know over at my nonprofit about your nonprofit that you're offering 4 books now. There are 3 that break the book down. So you can slow it down to 1 page, or you could slow it down to a section about shapes or about storybooks or about bodies. And that might make it more easy or easier for you to say, I want to show you this.
Right. It's not so overwhelming.
Yeah, let me show you something you can do.
Oh, great.
Okay, so I picked these up. You might guess what this looks like.
Those are maple keys, aren't they?
Yes, they are, but they have seeds at the bottom of them.
Okay.
Right, so there's the seed. If I turn it up this way, it might be the wing from Icarus from a fairy tale. So you might understand that this looks an awful lot to me like a wing.
It does.
There are a lot
like
of commercials right now with folded things like the Fidelity commercial where they have wings, right? So, but I noticed that if I picked up a couple of them and I tried to make a puppet out of them, that these are the right size. They're about equal size. And if I attach them with some glue, I might be able to do something with them. I might be able to make them last longer if I cover them with glue, right? Just as long as I don't stick it to a piece of paper and have to unstick it.
Yeah.
I might draw it, but I also found out that if I pick this one up and that one up, this one's very much shorter. It's kind of like my haircut. It's rounder, it's different shape. And so sometimes you have to go from the art book to saying, well, what does something look in nature and can I play with it? So if I roll the balls around, actually I can get it to have wings.
Yeah.
Because these are not equally distant. If you look,
Yeah,
something
they're a
nibbled
little
it.
different. Yeah.
Something nibbled it, so I actually can lay them against one another. So I actually could make these things actually become 3D and fly, and it looks a little magic. And now you're a terrific
I like that.
teacher.
So what you're saying is that you can use everything around you in nature. You don't need to go out and buy a toy or something.
Yeah.
You can find something that can inspire a child to be creative and discover new ways of thinking.
So I just found these outside in front of the house.
Oh, wow.
Because I wanted moms to think that they could instead of they couldn't, and they're right instead of they're wrong. So that gives you those kinds of things like big versus tiny, and maybe thin versus fat. And these are contrasts that you can work with in your kitchen. You don't have to go buy something new or have another toy. So you might have a plastic spoon and it might be a color. You could take the color just like I'm taking with the leaves. I can't get this the right angle. But I was comparing this green to the green here that's a really warm green. And it's a little lighter than that. It's more a lime color. But letting a child tell you and start talking about colors is a really good for their eyes and their visual field. It's also really good for you because you don't think you have to keep buying and buying and buying. That you could find a plastic spoon and see if the white of the spoon is the white there or the white of the eyes. That's called saturation. And if you open up the book, so you're working with your heart. I showed this book to a little girl last night, and I showed her the part that Ruthie showed me, that if I turn this drawing upside down, I don't know, let's see if we can see it. There's a drawing you have. It looks like a mermaid, or a lady. Yeah. Hold it slow. So yes, so people can see her hand up at her head, right?
Yeah.
And now if you turn it the other way, because there's always surprises in this book.
It looks like
a man.
A man. And let me see if, there it goes.
Yeah,
it looks like a man, a sea captain or something.
Yeah. Maybe he's got a turban on or some kind of hat.
That's exactly the reason why I called this book See What You're Looking At. Because a lot of times we'll walk by something as beautiful as this, and we'll just think, trash or something.
Right. It teaches children respect.
Yes.
But it also teaches them to use their eyes, and it develops, I'm trying to find out where, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. Okay. It develops the ability to see a shape or remember a shape or take a shape apart. So, in other words, there is light on this that changes the color. There's an angle of the camera that changes the shape of the leaf from
That's
what I'm
true.
doing. And right now you're losing the leaf because I'm trying to find out where the camera is. So I'm not quite sure how to do this yet.
Right.
But the nitty-gritty of it is we often think that art is not for us. And so in the book, there are shapes that are about the shape of a tube or a toilet paper roll.
Right.
And we always have leftover toilet paper rolls.
Yeah.
What could you do with them? Could you make them into a pirate's thing that you look
Yeah,
out of, right?
Right.
And folds into itself. Can you make it into a way that you could break it into something like the neck of a giraffe? Or you could bend it and pinch it together, and then and put eyes on it. So now it has eyes on it, right?
Yes.
And now it's got eyes on it, and it's looking at the world with a long neck.
Yes. Now this is exactly where your a person's and your creativity is so wonderful, because inspiring moms, inspiring anybody, educators, to be able to just enlighten a child's interest to the fact that an adult would be interested in something like a toilet paper roll and what you could do with it. This is incredible, because so many times children think, oh, this isn't important. I'm not important. Something that's small isn't important, because the parents are all like, oh, I got to go out and make money, or I'm so busy, or I don't have time for this. And then they look at things like, oh, what's this trash doing here? And so instead of seeing trash, they could see opportunities for doing something. To a little kid that doesn't have any money, he could see a world of stuff that he could become engaged in and involved in. And not only that, use his imagination. So this is the point
his
where
or her
his or her imagination. This is where your ability to inspire the imagination of a child is so wonderful. And that's what I respect and honor about you, Bo, is that you have this great ability to see the joy and the imagination in everything. Wherever you go, I've noticed that you do that.
Thank you. So I want to continue with the conversation of something from nothing or nothing from something. We'll figure out what we're doing here. But the theme is, a lot of times you won't, if you're a parent, pick up a book because you think you don't have any more money and you need to buy some medicine or you need to buy gas. And there are some unexpected something that you and your family have to take care of because somebody else isn't paying attention. I know I'm looking at that because I'm taking care of a cancer patient, and the cancer patient isn't aware of what it's costing me to drive an hour and a half both ways, or get stuck in traffic, or have a fire somewhere outside, and more traffic because people are running away from the fire. So you might think, well, I can't have art around, or I can't buy a book. But you know, when you go to a coffee shop, there's usually a mat there. And if you go to the one near my house, which is Mel's, it has crayons, and you could keep some in your purse. And now you have a place to draw, and you could have a child look at the world that they're in. And so what I love about Ruthie's book, I'm looking down not to ignore you, but to look at a page and find a page for a shape. So hold on. So one of the things a doctor's doing with me, because I have a concussion, is having me work with eye movements. So we started with a toilet paper roll. So you can see there's a tube, and they see this shape all the time. But then on the other page, move it the other way, there's a cup. So if you go to the coffee shop, there's probably a cup. And you can do something if you were printing with the circle of the cup. If you had some paint, you could make a stamp, right? Yeah. But if you want a child's brain and eyes to start working and learning words, you could say, draw me a circle. And can you draw an even circle in 3 seconds? Or could you draw me a circle in a minute? And could you practice making circles? Right? Yeah, that's make really small important. Circles for the bottom of the cup and bigger circles for the mouth or the lip. Now we've got a few words. That's right. Lips and lips. But mommy, the lip of the cup is not the lip of your lips. It's not soft. Yeah, that's right. This is hard. Yes, not that kind of hard. Right. Another kind of hard. Right. So now you're stacking words. And you're making distinctions about words, and it didn't cost you anything.
That's right.
They gave you the cup for free.
That's what I love about art. And another thing that I love about what you were just saying about the circle is that, and drawing circles, is that children today have a great starvation and need for hands-on activities that can actually increase their ability for manual dexterity, especially because they've taken the cursive writing out of the classes. I don't know why they've done that. Kids are just going, that's all they're doing nowadays.
Well, there's a bunch of research on this called marks on the mind.
Marks on the mind?
Yeah, there are researchers who are actually looking at how your hand moving, your eye, and thinking about shape and size and placement helps a brain develop. It's not just language. It's also isolating a shape and then being able to say, that's a dog, or that's a bird, or that's a hawk, or that's a wren. All of those things that you would have learned because you want to know the difference between a predator or a prey. So I want to show you what you did with 3 circles. Could you show everybody this and show how you got to a dog with 3 circles? So now you got circles.
Here, let's see. There's 3 circles, Marengo the dog.
Yeah.
And he keeps going.
And
then eventually turns into a dog. Yeah, let me get my hand out of the way.
So when kids say, or grown-ups say, I can't draw, it's because they can't isolate the image.
Oh, they don't know what to see, how to break it down.
To see and break it down. So breaking down basic shapes or building up from basic shapes doesn't cost anything.
No, it doesn't.
But it's really important.
It's so important.
So if you have a piece of dough, let's say you don't have clay, but you've got some flour and water, as long as you get it down and you put a little oil in it so it's not so sticky and you keep away a clean place for everybody to be so it's not all over the floor, you have some dough to play with.
Yeah.
And you roll the dough and you make it into either something you can cut out or something you could make. So if you have a tube of dough and then you pinch it to make a beak, and you put some eyes on it and then you fold it, it might look like a duck.
Right.
Or a platypus.
Yeah.
And kids understand playing around with the shapes. And you don't have to teach them the word that you just extruded the dough.
No.
It's a very fancy art word. It's extruded. It's an extruded shape.
We're learning to extrude.
Yes, it sounds rude, doesn't it? Rude and extrude. Yeah. So you can play with the rhymes of the words, but you could also help a child at the same time take away something that sort of bombed, help them make it, and then help them get the physical skill to do it.
Right.
So a lot of kids don't learn if you put too many skills on top of one another at the same time, because they barely even feel equal, because you're 20 times larger than they are, to even start with you, because they're afraid they won't look good.
Yes.
Already, even at a little kid.
And they don't want to make mistakes.
They don't want to make
mistakes.
They don't want to be in trouble. So, and they don't want to get in trouble for making a mess. So you need to make it safe for you and for them. And then if you're correcting them, you want to do it very gently. So you can say, may I?
Oh.
May I have your project?
Oh.
May I show you something new? Are you done enough?
Yes.
Are you done enough with what you're doing that I could show you something to do with it? And then you could roll it up with your hands into a ball again,
or make
say,
a new
what
one
could we make? Or you could bring your own dough with you and say, if I show you right here, you want to try it yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
So there's kind of a show and try aspect. Again, this had no budget. It had maybe a 1/6 of a teaspoon of oil and some water, and you rolled it in dough until it wasn't sticky, and now you have something to play with, but you'll have to clean up afterwards so that you don't have germs afterwards. But other than that, do it on a plastic cutting sheet and with some paper towels or some newspaper around, and then throw it away.
This is wonderful, because what I love about this whole thing with eye-hand coordination is that there's been so much research, which, by the way, is written about in the book, in the after the table of contents, a whole bunch of research about how the researchers have found out clearly that there's an importance to art with brain development. And the eye-hand coordination is something it's almost like magical when your hand starts to do what your mind wants it to do, and when you have a coordination where your hand is actually obeying you, there's a special thing that happens that gives a child confidence that they can't get in any other way. And I think it has something to do with the different parts of the brain. And it's similar to the effect that happens when a person finally, say, expresses their emotions through their mouth. John Jolliffe was mentioning that the most important 6 inches of our brain, of our body, is between our ears and our mouth. Because we can have thoughts in our head and be walking around, oh my gosh, and all the stuff's going around, the hamster wheel in our head is going around. But when we open our mouth and express it to another human being, it comes out and it goes into our ears and into a different part of our brain. And suddenly we hear ourselves, all those thoughts that were in there, get heard in a different way. And that's where our executive function and the parts of our brain that can see us from a different perspective start to operate. And that's what happens when we start to work with our hands. And when our child is learning to use their hands as an expression of their eyes, and they start to work together, the eyes and the hands and the brain together, a magical thing happens that can't happen any other way. So I think this is really important, and what you are doing, getting kids involved with this hands-on stuff, is so wonderful, Bo. I love how you've expressed it, especially with nature and things like that.
Well, the baby steps of this is it's good for you too as the mom, for you to find something that just fell off the tree. This is just from the parking lot, and this is actually also a way to explain life. If you're pregnant and you need to explain there's some new life coming in the world, this is a seed. It's actually a seed that flies. It actually does. So I'm wondering, if Frank Lloyd Wright had these kinds of trees around, because you can see it's a little wing, and it really does look like a wing.
And it flies.
And it flies, and it gets the seed where it needs to go.
Actually, these little maple keys, I don't know if it'll fly right here, but if you drop them, they're like little helicopters that can spin around. They spin around when you drop them.
Right, and so now you could study math.
Yes.
And you could study
aerodynamics.
Aerodynamics.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So there are 16 career clusters, and...
Wait. 16 career clusters. Will you explain that a little bit? Because you're more,
Okay, I'm going to look at the book.
You've got all the letters behind your name that I don't have.
So in this book it says try it. So I'm going to look through the table of contents and see what I can try to explain it. So we started with shapes. Mm-hmm. I know, but I have to read it.
That's
so
okay. That's okay.
And it says make shapes that appear 3D.
Right.
Well, if you made one of those little books, what do you call the books that you make? The ones that...
The flip books?
The flip books, okay. Yeah. If you draw this spinning through the air,
ooh, that's true.
You can make it sort of go 3D. Because what the computer does is when you do designer and different kinds of things that go into flash videos, it just moves the picture of the leaf for you and connects how it moves. And I can't see the camera, so you're going to have to do that for me. So spin it.
So it goes from flat,
yeah,
and then it goes like that.
Paper.
Whoopsie daisy,
Hold
go
on.
get your paper.
Okay. Things are flying.
Hey, talking about flying, and things are flying. So, I think what she's talking about is if a shape is spinning.
Yeah, you could draw it. You could draw it as it goes, and then your brain can connect it. And all these things are flowing, so we're fixing them for a moment.
Okay.
We're off camera to fix what's flowing.
Well,
but
this is interesting. Yes, go
about
ahead.
What you were the 16 career clusters. So
16 career clusters.
See, let's see how many
I
can
know
look.
all this stuff instinctively.
Wait a minute. I'm looking just like this guy who's having trouble and biting his tongue.
Yeah.
Oh no, I use this. So 2D. So if you don't know what 2D is, what's 2D?
It's flat.
It's flat. What's 3D?
And it's full.
Okay, who works with full things?
We all do, but we don't always see it.
Okay, why don't we?
Because we're so used to it.
Yeah, well, if you're moving boxes and they're heavy, you're a mover, right? If you're the company, you're in transportation. If you're also putting them in a storage space to hold them between getting them from here to there, like let's say it's a truckload of pears.
Okay.
If you look on the back, it'll list all the weight of the
that's
pears,
true. Yes,
right? And how much can be in the truck. But if you have a truck that you have to keep somewhere like a storage space, then you're in logistics.
Right. And like a cardboard box, they'll say this can hold how much weight or pressure per pound, you know.
Right. And to most of women, just as a stereotype or of my age, we were encouraged to never notice those kinds of things. But I was noticing that with the shape book that you did that lets little boys and little girls who want to draw car shapes. I was looking at the lights because I was thinking about all the dirty air. And I was thinking about, oh my God, if I'm in traffic, what am I looking at? Because I was using your book as a model. And I went, car lights, because I'm starting and stopping in traffic all the way from Sherman Oaks to Montclair. And I'm seeing the shape of car lights, and I'm going, oh my God, the lights are red and white, and they wrap around the edges of the cars, and they have different shapes. And so sometimes I see faces in the backs of cars and the backs of trucks. But then I also can see them wrapping around corners with softer, hard edges.
Oh, that's
and I
true.
went,
That's 3D.
All these 3D shapes that some designer or engineer is making because they have to make a mold, and it has to get poured, and then it has to harden, and then it's got to wrap around the car. Then it's got to fit. The robot's got to put it together over the empty space with the light bulb. And so I went, I can explain engineering, and I can use that book.
Yes.
And so those are career clusters: logistics, transportation, design, animation.
Oh, right, because things have to move.
Right. And now if we put the world and we connect the world to it, you've got geography. You've got you put the particles that are going around the world right now from the fires. Then you probably have aerospace. You might have flight, and you might have travel, and you might have hotels because they have to have good air conditioning and filters if people are allergic. And then you might also have food because people like to eat while they're traveling. And now we're all the way to Ireland because Ireland last week was having Creativity Week, and they had 300 schools that they were working with from the 4th of November to the 5th or 6th of November. And they wanted classrooms to be talking about all of this, like how does creativity affect the economy now, economics.
See?
That'll let you know if you have to buy a broken down old thing or a brand new thing. Or that you could save a pretty penny.
Yes.
And
by being creative.
take everybody out to dinner, or because you read about a coupon that if all of you went out to dinner, you got dinner for a fixed price, and now you're back to math.
Right.
So
that's true.
Measurement and math and shape and space and volume. Those are all part of what's called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Right.
And you can play with it by drawing. Who knew?
That's right. And that's why this book, it references the core standards. And that's the wonderful thing, because it means that the teachers can put it in their classroom and they can actually use it and legally say, well, it references the core standards, because nowadays teachers have to make sure that everything they teach follows part of the curriculum that is in the STEAM or STEM or STEAM, science.
STEAM means you've added the arts.
Added the arts, right.
You've added the arts.
Science, technology, engineering,
and math.
And A is arts, and then math. So that they're finally, thank goodness, they're finally getting the clue that the arts are important. Thank God.
But the arts also tie into a child's voice. So singing,
yes,
blah, 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 making funny sounds.
Music.
Walking and moving around and shaking your body or pounding on the garbage can.
Rhythm.
Timing. Being able to move from space to space without falling over.
That has to do with engineering.
Being able to hear you. You see old people and young people go over and try and listen and try and listen and you know, if I'm a drum circle chief, I'm going to do this to make the sound go up. So I want the sound to go up. And now you have a way you can signal, no more, I want more, I want more. Come on, sound up, sound down, sound down, little, littler, little.
As communication.
So, communication.
So
and rapport.
So what all these things were part of what you were calling the 16, what would you call them?
16 career clusters.
Career clusters. And it basically is, these are the things that we all need to survive. Everybody needs them, but they don't know it.
Well,
They're part of them.
If I took you can take either a needle, or if it's not safe around a child, you could take a straw. And I had a button with a big hole. So let's say I have a really skinny straw, and I start taking these buttons and I putting them on either my straw or under my thread, right? But if I'm putting them on a thread and I'm going, and what are my skill sets, right? So I take one and I say, well, I can read. And I take another one and I can say, I can draw. And another one I could say, I can think up new ideas. And you could make a stack of
skill
buttons
sets
that are skill sets, and now you could write a new resume about you. But what is that? A story about where you came from, what you've done.
Wow.
Now it's not scary, but you could move this stack of buttons and change it around depending upon which job you want.
And what's needed at that moment.
Right. And so now you've got, how does a child learn to tell a story about what they've accomplished over the last year?
This is a way that children can learn to say what they've learned.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to be a thread. I made it really complicated. It could just be a plate, or a bunch of shapes that are similar shapes. But let's say it's a plastic plate. You just have a tiny one. You go, I walked to school by myself. I picked up my room. I wiped the sink after I brushed my teeth because it was kind of scuzzy, right?
Wow.
And
you could have like a little jar of beads, different colored marbles, or anything.
But now you have a child talking about what I can do. Oh, mommy, look at what daddy, look at what I can do.
This is marvelous. You know, I wish I had known this when my kids were little, because I didn't realize that you could specify, put in little boxes, in a sense, the different abilities that we have. Because to me, it was all sort of like mushed together in a big blob.
Yeah, but I'm breaking it down
I like the way it's broken down, the way you've explained it, because then it makes it could make a kid feel, like you said, proud of themselves for whatever they have learned, and even if they're still learning the other things.
Well, I'm kind of also saying that for the mommy's sake or the daddy's sake, because there are some daddies maybe that are watching that are mommies.
Yes.
And because I'm teaching myself music to be multi-instrumental right now. So I'm borrowing your mandolin today, so I don't forget. And I'm doing that so that I can learn the violin. I bought a violin and I'm fixing it up. And yesterday my adventure was, how can I make a humidifier? A humidifier is something that releases a little bit of water at a time
in the air,
that will protect this instrument in our heat wave, because our heat, that children sometimes are sensitive, even our partners sometimes like a hotter bed or a colder bed, right? So I was making a humidifier on the cheap from what I have in garbage in my kitchen. So I had a little baggie that was a long, narrow baggie, and I had a sponge and a pair of scissors, so I cut a small piece of sponge to slide into that very narrow, clear plastic bag. Then I stapled it on both ends, because I don't have to worry about a child putting it in their mouth. I could have used tape, but I stapled both ends. And then I took a little pin and I punched holes, tiny holes, in the plastic bag, so that just little bits of liquid can be available to this instrument I'm restoring. So it keeps its humidity.
So the
case.
Plastic bag is a wet sponge inside of it.
It has a wet sponge
and you
inside
poked
of it.
holes, but it's not soggy wet.
No,
it's just moist,
slightly wet. Yeah.
And then you poked holes in the bag to be able to release the moisture slowly, and you could put it safely
in the bag.
In the bag.
It won't release a lot of water.
Yeah,
It'll release a little bit
near the instrument, so
yes.
that it won't
yes.
dry out.
And when the bag is no longer has any water in it, it's dried out. I made it so I could open it up again,
yes.
and I hadn't ruined the bag because it was
yes.
a long tube of plastic
yeah.
bag.
Oh.
And now I have this nice looking thing, and I can see it
so
if it got moldy, but it won't get moldy because it's too hot these days.
Yes.
But I made something
without
useful,
having to buy
without
something.
spending anything out of the
brilliant.
shapes that come from the stuff I bring home from the market
yeah.
or what I bought, and I maybe reuse it.
Yeah, this is like they always say they're trying to teach kids like recycle, reuse,
Repurpose.
and repurpose. And so you repurposing things is a magnificent way that you can teach kids so that they don't always just think of like throwing stuff away, because unfortunately I know a few moms that are just like so wasteful. I went to their house, well, this one girl's house, and she was like throwing stuff away that, like, I was trying to babysit for a kid one day to help, and I thought her toys, she wasn't interested in her toys. She had like gads and gads of Barbies and all these toys, and she wasn't interested in them at all. And I thought, let's have some fun here. So I pulled a few things out of the trash can, and I think, look what we could do. We could make an airplane with blah, blah, blah. You know, we were making things and cutting them up and gluing them together. And she was having the best time. And when her mom came home, she said, look, Mommy, look what I did. Showed her little, piece of what she'd made creatively out of trash. And the mom was just sort of like, oh, and didn't think anything of it. But I thought the girl was so proud of herself. And I thought, too bad other moms don't know about this.
Yeah, so
why spend the money? And the mom was wasting money on all that stuff.
Well, we're not being puritanical about this, but we're thinking about the future and the present. Mm-hmm. So right now there are garbage islands in the oceans, and they're not good. They degas, and they release chemicals, and so and they bleed chemicals into the water that affect living things that other animals or plants live off of. So birds live off of, and we might actually be eating things that have particulate matter that was from the oil industry, for example, or some other kind of chemical like BPA in them.
Yes.
So we're not doing well making materials that are out of man-made things, and we've been taught for the last 40 years to just throw it away. And yet California right now has been very sensitive about looking at styrofoam, because styrofoam and also the things that you scrub your skin with have little plastic beads in them, because they're affecting the melting ice caps, and they're affecting our budgets, and they're affecting our landfill, and they're affecting if we burn the trash because we have nowhere to send it, everything. So if we repurpose it, and we reuse it in a creative way, that's a new value. It's also an old value, because 100 years ago or 200 years ago, we would, if we were living in Ireland, for example, since I was talking about Ireland earlier, or we were living when we just came to America, we would reuse everything, because we learned that from the Indians and the native people, that everything is precious.
Right.
And not that it's stylish on social media, or not that it's the latest thing like in Louis XIV's France, that he had to be wearing high-heeled shoes to look cool at court. Yeah. The Kardashian story is not the story that maybe is going to hold the day, because we now are looking at how it could be resilient and sustainable as values.
Exactly.
And so we're rediscovering in California maybe not to use those plastic bottles of water, but bring your own container to go to a baseball game or a football game or a little league or a soccer game or something else, badminton or a run, to bring your own water bottle and to think ahead and be ready. So we were working on Be Ready Bears, and that's a whole idea about being ready for an earthquake.
When you say Be Ready Bears, what is that? Tell me
Be
about
Ready
that.
Bears was created by a friend of mine who's not here anymore, so I'm still going forward with it. California has a bear on its national state flag.
Let's hear that.
But this is somebody else's book that has a bear in it. A bear is a book about Berto the bear who's in Yosemite.
Yosemite.
And Yosemite is near where we live. It's not too far away. And it has a natural environment, and there are rocks and water here, but it's done with watercolors and drawings, and now it's teaching kids about the elements. So if you see these rocks, the thing I'm working with is pennies, so it has a copper rock or copper molecule, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then it has gold and it has silver, and these are the elemental things that come from the earth, right? Gypsum.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And different names. Hematite, which is magnetic.
Yeah.
But we used to have environments like this that had wild animals and wildlife walking around.
That was our only resources. We couldn't go to the store and buy
styrofoam
and plastics.
But also, this is a map of geography.
Wow.
And
look
this
at that.
is a map of Yosemite. We've had a lot of fires.
So
I'm turning that off.
Okay, let me do it.
Yeah, turn it off. So one of the things is north, south, east, and west, or the seasons affect the trees, and the trees lose their leaves. And so this is, again, you can see some of the colors that were just in the leaves that I just picked up, and I could take a leaf and compare it. You could see the green and see similar colors, and you could actually look at how the watercolor is mixed between yellow and green and blue.
Yeah.
So perception is seeing what's around you.
Right.
We used to have bears. We have a bear on our flag, and a child might say to you, Mommy, why is there a bear on the California flag? I don't see any bears around here.
We don't have any.
Yeah. So Be Ready Bear was about seeing what you're looking at. So that's the name of your book.
Yeah.
But if you see it, you might not know what it is. You might not comprehend it because you don't see it every day.
Right.
So to see means to comprehend, to make it make sense in your memory. So I could see a bear and know that it's a wild animal because I know I shouldn't go near a bear, right? Or leave garbage around or food around for it to eat and make a mess.
Right.
Because it could get sick, or it could come after more. It could come after me.
Yes.
So
it could be dangerous. Yeah.
You want to see what you're looking at. You want to understand what's required of you, and you want to, when you pack to go out to nature, do a little preventative thinking about what you're going to do with your trash, because we have waste.
Right.
And waste could be valuable, or waste could be meaningful, or waste could be dangerous because it attracts something you don't want.
Right. Exactly.
So you want to know what you're doing with the packaging around the meat. You don't want to start a fire under a tree on top of dry leaves to cook something and burn down the forest and yourself and all your friends, and then all the deer and all the animals, the squirrels that live there. Yeah. Right. So you want to be able to be ready for the environment you're going into. And we live in California near rural settings, up the mountains and down the mountains, and higher up where there's snow, and they're also antenna for the radio. So you want to know what you're looking at, like maybe storm clouds. You want to be able to draw them or make sense of them, and maybe have some language about what it means about the weather.
And be aware of your environment.
Yeah.
Now this is all so important because it has to do with elevating your consciousness. And basically, just like I've always told moms and myself, is love your kids like you won't have them tomorrow, but teach them like they won't have you tomorrow.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And so what you're doing is showing ways to teach them like they won't have you tomorrow. Because what if you're not around to say, oh, if there's a tree above our campfire, it might catch on fire.
Or a branch might fall down if the wind gets too, one of the things that's happening on the news is they're forgetting that we've had 70-mile-an-hour winds up where the Getty fires were.
Oh, my gosh.
And those winds are normal for this time of year, but the heat is not. So you had 94 degrees in November, and then you had high winds and dry grasses.
Right.
And the grasses started last spring when everything turned really green, so it was really wonderful then. But if you don't plan to clean up around your house, or if it's really untenable to go pull up all those grasses, now if a wire falls down or a tree branch falls on wires that are carrying energy and electricity above your house.
Oh, it could cause a fire, right?
It could cause a fire.
A spark.
And it's not the planner's fault.
No.
It's the weather plus the seasonal winds, plus the speed and intensity of the winds,
Yes.
plus the risk factor of these new kinds of grasses that are very easy to light fire, and they're better than paper for really starting a big fire. So our air is dirty.
Well, this is one of the things that I appreciate about you, and it's just one of the many things I appreciate about you, and about the fact that, thank God I had the father I did, because he was someone who was an engineer, and he was extremely practical and would always like explain things, like everything about around us, nature, and this thing works this way, and oh, did you observe that this happens, and da, 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 da. So he was very, much the scientific explainer of things around the house.
But even really with nice. Explaining, like I was on the 405 freeway, and just past the Skirball and the university up the hill near Mulholland, and there was a baby rabbit. And the baby rabbit was a gray baby rabbit, and it was along the side of the freeway. So I called 911 or 211 because I wasn't wanting to upset anybody. And I told them where this baby rabbit was, because the baby rabbit was just sitting there just not knowing what to do. And the cars were whizzing by. And depending on where you live, people take incredible joy in helping you. So the operator said, we'll be right over.
And did they?
Yeah, I just said I need animal rescue.
Oh.
Because the rabbit had hopped down the side of the freeway into a situation that it couldn't even imagine
how
existed.
To get back, yeah.
And it was probably just looking for friends or food. And so because those hillsides right now are worrying now about sliding mud soon, they are very aware that there's wildlife that's walking around on either side of the hill
that are replaced.
They're in trouble.
They're
in trouble.
They don't know where to go.
Yeah, so they need us to protect them, and the people on the phones, the rescue people, know about that. So if you're really lucky to live somewhere that loves the environment, they joyously said to me, "Thank you for the call."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
now, what is 211? I've never heard of that. I've heard 411.
211 is 911 is for a real emergency.
Right.
And 211 is United Way has a phone line to ask information.
Really?
Yeah, so it's an extended line that has lots of different information, like how to find a social worker, or how to find something about senior abuse, or how to get a rescue phone number.
I've got to remember
211.
211.
If you need housing, or you need to find a food bank, or if you need to find help for a senior, or someone who's having violence at home, that they can get you to
resources.
Resources.
Well, I'm gonna investigate that some more, because remember in the old days when they had 411?
Yeah,
where you could ask somebody's phone number. I know, but it's kind of like 411 in a way. They could say, "Oh, go to this website or call that number, or this is what will hook you up with this person or that."
Yeah, it works. It sometimes doesn't work. You can't get mad.
Yeah.
You have to leave a little bit more time for all of these resources. Yeah. But if someone doesn't feel well and they've got a cold, it's really hard for them to call and either get on the internet or be heard on a phone line. Often the machines don't hear a female voice.
Oh, really?
So if you're a mom taking care of kids, you might want to talk down in your deeper register so that the phone machine and
it's a phone machine.
Bill paying part of Verizon or whatever it is you're talking to can recognize your voice.
Oh,
it's hysterical.
They always think I'm a man when I call. I don't know.
Yeah,
why.
Well, I have a voice they don't even hear, so you can't get mad at it. You have to learn to stand your ground. But how does a child learn to stand their ground? They first learn to be in a rapport, that they have your eye contact.
That's right, eye contact. Very important.
And that they can tell a story in a short amount of time, like help.
That is one of the important things that I realize that every child needs, is to feel seen and heard, and that you get them. And that's why I thought there should be 3 things that are really important you can say to a child. I see you, I hear you, and I get you. And that in not so many, you can say it in different words, but you have to express those 3 thoughts. And, animals think in pictures, and so do children in a way. They have to, our communication can't just be words. It has to be our whole presence. It has to be with our eyes and with our ears, with our knowing, with our actual paying attention to the child. There was one little girl who her mommy was cleaning the house and doing all this stuff, and the little girl says, "Mommy, aren't you happy?" And mother says, "Yes, I'm happy." And she says, "Well, your face doesn't show it."
Oh, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Right.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Right.
Yeah. So congruency is another word.
Congruency is another word.
To be congruent is to actually put a smile inside and outside.
Right.
As opposed to you're miserable inside and you're grimacing outside.
That's true.
That's congruent too. But it's not what a child likes to receive, because then they feel like you're in pain and they want to save you.
Exactly.
So
now,
you don't want to make a child a grown-up before their time.
That's right. That's real important.
No child will become a grown-up before their time.
That's right.
You let them age with childhood being intact.
It's so
and
true.
Innocence being intact.
Right.
And sweetness being intact.
Yes.
So
it's like a fruit that if you take a fruit and you try to ripen it prematurely, it'll never taste as good as a fruit that ripens.
Well, I think I know of someone's roommate who's mad at them for being sick, and that's because his parents used to push him, and so he's now punishing to the senior who suddenly had cancer. And so we don't seem to know how to waste not, want not. And so what that would mean is don't waste a precious minute where a child could be discovering what life is all about by themselves, because that they'll always have. It's that teach someone to fish story.
Yes.
In a moment of creativity or wonder creates a happy kid.
That's
and that
right.
goes back to your story about they didn't have today, Mommy, what I go to school for.
Right.
A lot of children go to school for the arts, and then we take away the arts because the administrators or the teachers are uncomfortable with the arts. So in a lot of ways, this new book called Seeing What You're Looking At can make all the difference to a teacher understanding how to approach getting a child to focus or come to school or be motivated or make sense out of math. And that's why they're teaching with STEM and STEAM, not to enforce some kind of state or corporate mandate, but really to allow a child to develop all what are called the homunculi, all the little, the neuronal endings that turn into folds in our brain. So what it is that your neurons, which are the little electrical circuits that pass messages and goes zap, and then this one catches it. So the zap factor is really correspondence between I saw something, what is it, and the
understanding. It's the connection between the neurons, so that creates
more
comprehension.
What wires together, what fires together, wires together.
Ooh,
so
I like
if you have this neuron and you're seeing a circle, and you know what a circle is, and you can connect it to the word circle, then you're ready for the next step where you could go 3D and you could see a globe, and you could catch it. You know, like every child in the world, when I bring a little red ball and I throw my little red ball, they know exactly how to play with me.
Yes.
And they know exactly we're learning with one another.
Exactly.
And they know that I'll tell them I can't really see the ball, so I'm going to drop it. And they get really happy that I dropped the ball. And it's very different than my grown-up. My grown-up is supposed to suffer because I dropped the ball. But I can't see where the ball is, so I drop it all the time. That's important to teach flow.
Right. And that is exactly what how I explain like what communication is to little kids. Because I'll say, well, here, we're going to play a game now. And this was a game I learned at Warner Brothers in our improv class, which was you had a ball and you'd say something, and then you throw the ball to the other person, and the other person would have to answer you. And it was just one sentence each. And then they'd throw it to you and you'd have to answer them. But you have to make a story out of what you were saying. Well, when I talk to little kids, I explain, honey, because a lot of kids, they'll catch the ball and they won't give back. Or you don't throw the ball back. So when they say something, you return it. So I explain it, okay, honey, when we talk, it's like we're playing a game of ball. So I throw you the ball, and now it's your turn to talk. Now, what are you going to say? And then and you throw me the ball, and then it's my turn to talk. And we take turns.
Which sounds like the talking stick, which goes back to there's a new cube out, which has a little speaker on it. And they use it in conferences. So you have this cube. It's about that big and has a little domey microphone on it. And so you throw it to somebody, and then they introduce themselves to the whole room. They're holding the ball so you know who's talking, and they get to say the same thing that I was telling you about the buttons, right? My name is Bo, and I have a master's in musical linguistics, and I'm here as a Globe partner, and I want to find other people that want to work with music in the schools and arts in the schools with science, and then I'll throw the little cube, and then people know what you're up for. And if they want to talk to you, and everybody's included, and you know that you could be heard. Right. So it's really important to when children don't want to get back. Sometimes they're afraid you're gonna laugh at them. Yes. Sometimes they're afraid that they'll make a fool of themselves because they know they don't have the words in English. Sometimes they hold back because they don't feel safe with you. Right. And that's sometimes the grown-up is not willing to say, what did I do that makes that child not feel safe? Right. But if you take pen to paper and you create a place, just 5 minutes in a class for a child to either write, or if they can't write, draw what they understood. Now there's real communication over time about something that you started that they remember, and children's memories are huge. They're wonderful. And if you give, like what Bo does when she does a class where she'll teach something and then give the kids a chance to draw a picture, to explain what they learned, or write down what they learned, this gives the child a chance to make it their own. And that's what I love about the way you teach, because you make it, the kid owns whatever they learned. And then they can express it in their own words or their own way. You know, like if I look at this seed again, and I can't see if you can see it. Yes. If you see the bottom of the seed, it looks perfectly whole. Wait, see, it's not showing it. Where is it? You hold this okay. Okay, there you go. Okay, I'm in front of the camera. Okay, so if you see the seed on either side, you can see it looks pretty whole. And, the word that we might use is good. It looks good. And then if you take this seed and you start seeing that it's sort of fragmented and chewed up, and you go, oh, it looks bad. Maybe there's a bug in it that's eating it. But bad or good is all kind of giving an evaluation and broken, right? So somebody broke my seed, right? Instead of curiosity, like how did it get that way? Did something scratch it? Did something bite it down? Did it get knocked off? Or was it food for an animal? Yeah, did somebody eat this? Can I draw that? Well, you learned how to shade and you learned how to color in Ruthie's book. And you begin to stop thinking like, is it right side up or upside down or sideways? What way does this match what I'm trying to do? Yeah. And so it's not good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Yes. There's something about that. And this upon do your own self be true, and then thou canst not be false to any man. So we're looking at what's false and what's true, or what's true right now, or what changes. And I was looking at CIRE, which is a project out of the University of Colorado about science and policy today. And what they were saying is science in service of humanity. Wow. So why do we need to learn science? Because the mask I bought is only good for keeping germs away. It's not good for toxins coming off of fire. So if something burns and it releases oils into the air or gases into the air, they're still dangerous. Right, exactly. And I shouldn't use it multiple days because then I'm sniffing in the stuff. Oh my goodness. Or if I don't put the ear things over my ears the right way, it's leaking that 95 NEOSC mask. So suddenly I find out like I'm buying the wrong thing. I don't have the right one. Also, it shows how a temporary solution isn't always something you need all the time. Like when you said the word mask, it reminded me of how people sometimes put a mask on to pretend everything's okay when it's really not. That might work when you're in a dangerous situation where like you have to hold in your feelings because somebody's dangerous around you and you have to just get out of there.
and just not show your real feelings. But you can't use that technique every day because that could be toxic to your life.
Well, you know, you remember this guy, right? We were playing with this guy point of view, right? So now I'm a marauder, or I'm somebody from Marvel Comics, right?
Yeah.
But then if I can turn my hands upside down, I can be in an Italian mask, and I could be really sexy, so I could be the hero, or I could be Ant-Man, given the little fingers across my face, like the little crab face. So it's about playing.
It's learning.
It's about playing
that it's okay,
and it's okay to play, and it's okay to say hi
right.
or bye and hello, aloha, and some other words. Say hello and goodbye at the same time.
Right.
It depends upon whether it's the front hand of the hand or the back hand.
Right.
And they're all one hand.
Right. Now, the fact that you are bringing up all these different things makes it really understood that if kids realize that knowledge is not just every one thing, it's that there are many facets to life that are all okay to explore. That it's okay, you know, don't check your brains at the door. You don't just have to believe. I said it, kid, so you believe it, you know. Like the thing about the elephant and the blind men around the elephant.
The leg looked like the tail, looked like the trunk. Yeah, the baby steps of that is really like, what do you think education is? Some of us think that education is to pour stuff into a child, and what we're talking about, it's to draw forth.
So they can start thinking.
Yeah, so that you actually are not just teaching them a word or a technique, but you're actually giving them a way that they can animate what they know, and they could use it again and again and again, so that they don't feel lost.
Exactly.
They feel like they have a place they look out of, and they have a voice that matters.
Right.
And they have something to contribute.
Right.
That's and all of those have to do with comprehension and understanding, and being able to do better at school.
Right. Well, I think this is wonderful, Bo, and this might be a good time for us to pause because the conversation will never end.
That's right.
We have so much to say.
It's also the same way of saying hello.
Yes. Oh, that's true. Aloha. Like aloha.
Yeah.
We are all in this world together, and that's what I love about what Bo is doing, because she's reaching out in many different parts of the world to help people and help educate kids. And your nonprofit New Education Options is just amazing. And thank you for doing so much to tell people about my nonprofit and the book that the teachers can use.
So
in their
look
classroom.
On the website. Go Mommy Go.
It's actually Edu Designs. I can put the link in the description.
Yeah, so look for the book, look for the sections of the book, look for even a page of the book to work with, and put it into a stocking stuffer, or we're going to have some free art classes for the community for Christmas time in Burbank and probably in the West Side. So watch for an announcement, because you might get to work with this artist.
Oh, wow.
And see how to use the book.
Yeah.
See how you could work as a teacher's aide with the book, or as an educational student, or somebody who's getting your credential, or maybe just a stay-at-home mom or dad, not just but especially a mom and dad who are kind of teaching kids how to plan their life that way, or how to look ahead, or how to be safe, or how to feel good because they made something beautiful.
Right.
It doesn't have to be for a purpose. It could be for joy.
Right, exactly. And that's what we are doing. In every little section there has a part called Try It, so the kids can try.
And acorns just went by, and trees went by. We'll tell you about greening up, and trees keeping the city and you cooler, and clean ways to live in cities.
That's right.
With who lives there, not just us.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining in, and I'll make some notes in the description so that you can get in touch with any of the fun things that we were talking about. Okay?
Yeah.
So
welcome
thank
to fall
you so much.
And back to winter solstice. Okay.
Right. Thank you so much.
Bye.